Alright, here we go. So, for this one, I was out a little while ago, and to show someone how I would do it, I quickly painted a little beard, because they're an elderly friend of mine, hoping to get into digital painting. And in doing so, I was using a new program, hadn't touched it before, didn't like it very much, but I liked how I ended up doing the beard. So I got home and I thought, well, that's what I want to do today. So I made myself a man with a beard, specifically so I could paint it again. It's been a while since I've done digital painting specifically. I've done a lot of sketches. I've gotten okay at sketches. And I need to stop doing sketches so I can get back to finished artworks. This one went okay. It's not the best, it's not the worst. It's functional. I'll get to the rendering later. I think the sketch went alright. So this is without reference, which is just a quiet little brag of mine. What I'm doing right now, I'm just doing essentially my version of the Loomis method. And by my version, I mean a version a million people have, but I don't like a lot of curves. I like using squares wherever I can. Thus the square head. It gave me a lot of character for this this character. I start off here with getting a bit of a slightly enlarged shoulder set, because I always think whenever I'm doing a head, I want to see how it connects, because that establishes a lot of the muscles in the neck and such, which I barely touch, and then I'll also later remove the shoulders anyway, but, you know, it works. Alright, sketch layer done. I didn't want to go too in-depth because I knew I was going to get rid of it later, which hurts my soul because I think it's better, but, you know, it's what we do. I was choosing myself a mid-tone, and apparently the decision I made was pallid. It's a bold choice. You might notice I've given him a very wide V-neck here. That's just because I didn't like the shoulders at this point, and I didn't want to spend time fixing them, so I'm cutting it down into essentially a sculpture-style bust. And then I'm just getting my midtones for the beard. These midtones are a bit too dark, I think, but it kind of worked out in the end. I think the beard generally worked. It worked a lot better than the skin did. I'm making the most generic color palette possible, but it's, as we get back into it, you know, relearning stuff. You're going to see me flipping between my sketch layer a lot. I remove it eventually. What I should have done is blended it in, but here you'll just see me go over it later on. I'm using it for the structure of the face, but I was never planning on using it for the final piece. I love a dark purple as my shadows. I think it's just... if you've done much art, you'll know a lot of people advise against using black color. It's like the actual removing of color. I like it in some aspects. I like a lot of Mignola's stuff, which uses really heavy blacks. But for this one, which was a more vaguely realistic tone, I like a bit of purple because it implies some color in the atmosphere. It's also just a bit more interesting, and it flattens it less. It would have flattened it even less if I'd used a few more colors within it, but, you know, here we are. I love doing shadows. I think shadows are where it brings out the blocking in a face really, really well. Always makes me happy to see it. It's like one of those immediate changes that just sort of alters the perspective of the entire piece. Oh, bit of a pause there. After I've done the shadows on the skin, sort of the main shadows, I know there are terms for it, but I'll come back to you. But I went in for the beard. I knew I wanted lighting on the left because I wasn't going super exciting with the lighting. I was going for a more classic, almost Rembrandt lighting setting. Getting my heavy thoughts in. I add more, and I go over my stuff a lot because it's always a thing of... it's carving out the shapes that I wanted to show, and it's me looking at things and going, do I like this? And then going, no, so I fix it and change it later. You'll see me do it with a lot of soft shadow that I put it over and then I go, ah, no, I didn't like this. And then I put it over again and I go, ah, I didn't like this. But as is the way of learning. I did like that. That was fun. It flattened it a little much. I get some of that depth back. Oh, right there. Look at me go. But, yeah. I like that thicker bit coming from under the lip as well. I think it's a nice bit of flow. This whole time I'm trying to think about what shapes I want to be sort of coming out of it and what I want to be going in. There are some great things around of great chats, mostly based around things like painting like a sculptor is, I think, how Cynic's Designs describes it. He's without a doubt my favorite when it comes to anatomy. I've sort of moved away from it now, purely because I think if I kept on going down it, I'd end up creating a style too similar to his, and I love his style, but I wanted to go out on my own a little bit more. Trying to do that red, so there's this theory of reds in the middle, yellows on the top, and blues on the bottom for faces, and I committed a little too heavily to it. I also, this whole time, I made the tones just a little off. What I think I should have done, first off, is not used white as my background. I fixed that later, as you'll see, but at this point, it made me choose a lot of pallid stuff, because it's already so much of a difference. And then later, I'll put on a more interesting background and go, oh shit, I've made him look gross. But that's okay. That's what we do. For a bit there, my sibling told me a while back of the tumbler nose, which I didn't go all the way to, which at least. But I don't know. I was drawing him. It's like, you know what? It'll add a bit of character to this grumpy middle-aged man. I quite like him though. I love his thick neck. I think that was a fun bit. He looks stern, simultaneously like he could pulverize my face and make a really nice cup of coffee. A lot of the color that I've thrown into the beard there, it was a bit more intentional than it might seem. I was trying to go cools in the shadows, warmths in the light. I think it worked, to each their own, but you'll see me add in a lot of colors that are a little strange, like greens and some blues, some yellows. A big part of this, one thing I'm trying to go towards with my painting as I get back into digital painting is, oh no, I've just forgotten his name. It's not Marco Bucci, who was also wonderful. Sorry if I mispronounced the last name. It is. I'll link it below, because he's great. I'm so sad I've forgotten his name. He's wonderful. It's just because I'm bad with names, I swear. But he talks about vibration in color, which is like, as I understand it, a lot of variance to make it come more alive, make it seem like it's, well, vibrating is a really good term. It really describes it well to me. But I love it. He'll show examples. He goes off the deep end with it, and it looks incredible when he does. But I like not having a single palette compose the entire piece, even when it's something so singular as a beard. Like the beard, you know, someone's hair tones tend to be only a little bit varied. Like my hair doesn't go very green or blue in all that many spots, but I like the aesthetic it brings. I never managed to get the eyes back to how what I liked about them in the sketch. I think I know what I did wrong. One of the things was I didn't carve them correctly, and I didn't do the shadows well. The fact that I did that flat purple shadow instead of adding more detail to it, I think I was too scared to get to it. It really took away from it. And you see, I noticed my guy was a bit pallid, so I tried to fix it with some brown, as well as getting that lighting down the center. I don't know if that lighting down the center was successful, but I did it all the same. No, you know, looking back, I prefer it a little more than I remember, which is nice. I definitely still should have made those darks a bit more saturated and a bit more, well, dark. I think the contrast was too low, which eventually you'll see me take this into the Camera Raw editor, which is something I'm a lot more experienced with as a photographer. But we'll get there when we get there. I think those warms actually really look nice on the right, at least. One thing I definitely should have done is cropped in. Forgot to do that, but committed to it. Didn't want to fix it later. Here's me trying to add a little depth to the world itself, and I also decided I wanted to commit to it being like a bust, like a Roman-style plinth, so I carved the side of that peck off. You can see the shadow that I added to it. Doing a bit of an over-the-top warmth here, especially for the hair, which I realized was lacking in color. I did it over the head as well. I think it made it look a little sunburnt, but yeah, you know. And you know, I actually should have stuck to that outline. I really like how it looked just there. I did it on the right side for the shadows, but I was like, I'll do a highlight for the other side. And honestly, I quite liked it dark, I think. Maybe that would have been a good idea. But, you know, live and learn. It's all in the spirit of practice. I did notice that my shadows weren't strong enough here, but I didn't quite commit to the fix. Got it a bit away, though. Carved out some more shapes of the musculature and skull. I always give my guys really strong temples. They're always very prominent. Here's me getting it ready for the Camera Raw. This is my Lightroom experience of, like, I mean, I only used color work and it was very light. I didn't want to, like, heavily edit this. I hope I didn't edit it too much. I'm second-guessing myself already. There we go. bringing up some lights, bringing down some darks. I don't do too much with the color. I popped it a little bit, but not that much. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think it went okay. So yeah, this was my quick one. This one took, I think, about 45 minutes to paint. Gonna do a lot more of this. I hope you liked it. I'm sorry for the lower quality. It's happened to a couple of my early videos that you'll see here. I did them all very recently, but I only today, after this one, realized that I recorded it all in 720p in OBS, like a genius. So it might say 1080, but yeah. I've tried to up it a little, but there's only so much you can do. Anyway, thank you very much for having a watch. I'll see you in the next one.